please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Very good morning. You're watching Trading Hour on CNBC TV18. I'm Ekta Batra. With me is Prashant Nair, and it's turning out to be a day where we're just about consolidating, trading with a little bit of a positive bias for the Nifty and the Sensex, whereas the Midcap index is outperforming as compared to what we are seeing for the Nifty and the Sensex, so up around 0.5% currently for the Midcap index. A lot of stocks in focus. It seems as though the pharmaceuticals as well as the IT stocks are really leading the way in today's trade as well. So Wipro is your top gain on the Nifty. Following suit is Dr. Reddy's, which is almost 2,600 rupees, and a couple of others from the auto space reacting to what would be their auto sale numbers for the previous month. So Eicher Motors, for example, is up around 2%. Lively market in terms of stocks, lots to discuss, especially also from the construction space. Hi, Prashant.
Ekta, hi. Welcome back. First up. So, I mean, nothing kind of a day. 22 odd points or so on the Nifty is what we have, as you pointed out. So, we'll wait for action to pick up, for things to pick up. Globally, I mean, the environment, the backdrop isn't all that great. You look at, equity indices in Asia or currencies. I mean, both emerging market currencies, and you look at G10 currencies, the big ones. I mean, essentially what's happening is that equity indices are weak. Currencies are selling off a little bit, and the dollar is, it's rangy, but it's picking up steam against other currencies. Of course, I mean, the rupee market is in trading, so we don't have to worry about that one, at least today. Okay, let's get some strategies now, and I think Rahul Shah is with us with some F&O trades to begin with. Sudarshan will be with us in just a bit. Rahul, morning, thanks very much. What would you want to do at this point? I mean, it's nothing kind of a day so far, 20 points in the Nifty.
I think, the markets have been lackluster today, but I think a couple of few ideas looks interesting on F&O space. One is top of the mind is HDFC Bank. I think we've seen this stock stably around quite some time now, post QIPs and all. So I think it's just crossed the 100-day moving average, HDFC Bank. So I feel this stock can be bought with a stop loss of 2063 and target of 2140. Second is we've seen pharma stocks doing quite well in last few sessions. So my topic is Cadila. So I think we've seen decent longs built up in the stock and technical breakout in Cadila Healthcare. So I would go along with a stop loss of 398 and target of 435. And third being Bharat Forge. Interestingly, last 2-3 sessions we've seen a good volume with the price movement in Bharat Forge. So I think it's again one can go long with a small stop loss of 680 and a target of 715.
Okay. All right, Rahul, we're going to let you go on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and taking us through all of those strategies. We have Sudarshan Sukhani joining in to discuss what he is recommending this Monday morning. Sudarshan, over to you then. Stocks as well as index call.
Well, for the index, we avoid the Nifty Bank. It's choppy and it's in a large trading range for the last 2 weeks. We want to buy the Nifty on a dip, an intraday dip. If the futures dips towards 11,710 or 715 in that zone, then I want to be a buyer. Till that dip doesn't come about, I wait for it. Individual stocks keep on offering buy opportunities. This is a buyer's market so far. So consider buying Infi. The reasons are obvious. This entire IT index is on a roll. It's giving us gains day after day. And the second, it's an outperforming sector. The second buy is Strides. Strides has already come out of a small correction. It's now part of the pharma pack. Remember, Ekta, I have talked about pharma for months altogether, how it will lead the next bull run. It is doing that slowly. So buy Star and hold it also if you want a positional trade. And the third buy is ACC, with a disclosure that I actually own some shares in it as an investment. ACC is part of the small cement sector, which is now looking cheerful. See, Shree Cement, ACC, even Ultratech, all of them are giving signs of life after a small correction. So the entire sector is a buy.
Okay, we got some questions for you from viewers. Kaushik, Anurag Kaushik, I think, writes to us. He wants to know if Hexaware is a good buy at current price levels for the long term. It's up some 30% this year. Some of the recent performance, I mean, actually, it actually sold off pretty recently. It was up a lot more at one point. But Hexaware, what would your sense be, Sudarshan?
Well, yes, Prashant, because it's sold off, it's coming at a lower price. So I think these sell-offs keep on coming in all stocks. We should not worry about it. At current levels, thanks to that sell-off, it's a little better priced, and I would say it's a buying opportunity. But the key word here is long-term. If you are looking for 2 to 3 years at current levels, it's a very attractive buy.
Okay, all right, Sudarshan, we're going to let you go on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and taking us through all of those strategies. We have some news coming in from NCC. 4 new orders worth almost 3,600 crores for the month of August, all from state government agencies. To talk more about it, we have Mr. Y.D. Murthy of the company joining in. Mr. Murthy, just fill us in terms of these 4 orders. What does it mean in terms of your total order book? When do you start executing these orders, and where is it from exactly?
Yeah, in the month of August, we bagged 4 new orders totaling 3,592 crores. Out of that, one big order of 2,850 crores. It is a road project for development of the Nagpur-Mumbai Super Communication Expressway, Package 3. It's a big order to be completed over a period of 30 months. And earlier we have done the Agra-Lucknow Expressway, one package, well in time, ahead of time. Likewise, we are focused on completing this project as per schedule. Other than this, we got an order of 348 crores for some IIT Ropar, the construction of the campus buildings. And another order is about 323 crores in Birbhum in the West Bengal. Again, a construction of buildings there. And also one project of about 71 crores in water division from Greater Visakhapatnam Smart City Corporation.
Sure.
Pipeline work meant for that. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Murthy, you've garnered almost 7,900 odd crores in terms of orders just in this particular fiscal. Can you give us a sense in terms of if you had to compare how things are in terms of order wins from the government as well as in terms of execution of orders? How is it as compared to, say, what it was last year? And if you could give us some color in terms of how things are on the ground.
Yeah, first of all, about order accretion, we have given a guidance of 14,000 crores for FY19. And in the first 5 months itself, we got about 7,898 crores, which is more than the requirement in 5 months. And definitely we are on track to achieve the targeted order accretion of 14,000 crores for FY19. And as far as execution is concerned, it is definitely picking up, mainly because we have got a number of fast-track orders to be completed within 15 months, 18 months, 24 months like that. So they are likely to add nicely to the top line in the remaining quarters of the current financial year. And we are confident of achieving the targeted top line also for FY19.
But it seems as though you might exceed the target if you're going at this run rate. 14,000 crores, you've already done almost 7,900.
You're with us here on Trading Hour. Let's turn our attention to the world of commodities and currencies. Manisha Gupta is with us here in our studios to take us through all of that. Manisha, morning.
Morning, Prashant. Thank you so much for that. Well, we have seen the US dollar strengthen back. The EM currencies, of course, have been slightly under pressure. But the major concern for the metals as a space this week really is going to be a possibility. And as soon as this Friday itself, that US could perhaps put further tariffs on $200 billion worth on Chinese goods. Remember that public feedback ends on 5th of this month, and that is when you could see that happening. There have been statements from US saying that it is more than a possibility at this point in time, and we have seen the metal prices come off because of that. If you look at the LME markets, the copper prices are trading at the lowest in last 10 days. We have nickel prices that have declined to a 6-month lows as well, and almost everything is under pressure. The steel prices, which had been gaining all of the last month, also have started this month on a weaker note. The other bulk metals like iron ore, coke, etc. also are trading on a weaker side. Add to that the China manufacturing activity also has slowed down to the lowest in last 1 year. So there isn't any support that we have seen come in for the metals from anywhere. Joining us to talk more about that is Mark To, Head of Research at Fingfang. Mark, hi, thank you so much. What is your sense? What is the kind of possibility that you are working with that we might see yet another tariff go from US on those statements?
Thanks for having me. Actually, we can all see that the states are going to have some more changes. They attempt to change the status quo or the existing rules of the game. So I still expect further changes on the way. But we can see also, on the other hand, that the market participants, the investors in general, they have an expectation, they have the psychological preparation for further and further actions. And that's why the asset classes or even the market in general gradually digested or incorporated the news or the development of the news. So I think from this point of view, the market actually has stabilized a little bit. But overall speaking, we can still foresee that the random shocks from the regime can still be expected. So let's put it this way: expect the unexpected.
So just to get some more clarity on that, are you putting a 80 to 100% perhaps probability of yet more tariffs coming in from US? I tend to think that what you mentioned is actually more than a possibility, and okay. I find it really plausible. Mark, there also is no support from the kind of data that we have seen come in from China, whether it is the investments, or the manufacturing activity, the export orders. All of that has seen a bit of a hit from what the street has been working with, even that on the lower side. And add to that the strength in US dollar. So what is your sense on where are the metals headed for rest of this week, rest of this month now?
Well, for the metal prices, I tend to think that we have to distinguish between the two classes. One is the so-called precious metals, and the other is so-called the basic metals. For the basic metals, I think the fundamentals are a little changed. We can see that the economic recovery is for real, and that's why I think the demand is picking up. But for the precious metals, which are more or less related to the monetary policy normalization, especially because of the Federal Reserve are going to have a faster than expected rate hike. Even though we still expect that, we are forming the expectation, as I mentioned earlier. But we still think that the upside momentum is really limited. So if I were going to make a bet at this moment, I'm going to make it southward.
Okay. So, if you had to buy something in the base metal prices, as you said, the economic activity seems to be picking up. What would you really be buying in? Because we've seen the best of buy calls come in for aluminum prices.
Yes, that's what I mentioned earlier. For the real demand picking up, because of the recovery, I think aluminium or even the copper prices, they are. You may say they're the usual suspect, or you may say they're normal. They're normally affected in a positive way. But we can see that after the past 20 years or so, we can see that unless the Chinese demand is moving up significantly, we can't really expect too much.
Okay. All right, Manisha. Thanks very much for that and getting us all of that perspective on the commodity space. We need to take a break with the news that there has been a little bit of a pickup for the Midcap index. Nothing really to write home about, but up around 0.7%, and the Nifty still hovering and consolidating around 11,700. Well, it's all about IT as well as the pharmaceutical space. So, for example, we have TechM, which is at a fresh 52-week high. We have Sun Pharma, which is at a fresh 52-week high in today's trade. But the other one which stands out has to be Wipro, which is the top gain on the Nifty. The company has completed an acquisition of Alight HR Services. Rima joins in with more details of that. Alight has also won a deal which is actually giving it revenue visibility for quite a few years. Rima, over to you.
Yes, absolutely. So Wipro has completed the acquisition of Alight India HR Services. This was announced during the Q1 numbers. At that time, the company had said that they will be paying $117 million for this acquisition, and the company, Allied India, had revenues of nearly $160 million as of FY18. This is what we already knew during Q1 numbers. Now, the expectation was that since the companies made this acquisition, they've made that payout of $117 million, this $160 million run rate will continue into the future as well. Now, over the weekend, the companies announced that they won a new deal, which is worth $1.5 to $1.6 billion over a 10-year period, which means annual revenues of $150 to $160 million, which is the same run rate as the company had. Now, we spoke to the company to get some clarity that is this an incremental revenue? Does the FY18 revenue of $160 million continue? And this will add an additional $150, $160 million, which would take it to $310 to $320. And the company has categorically said no. All it tells you is that this $160 million revenue run rate that it had as of the last year will continue for the next 10 years itself, which is pretty much what analysts had expected and baked into their own estimates. So in that sense, it's not that the revenues will double, it's just that the revenues will continue for the next 10 years. And in that, it's also a bit of a positive because it gives you that revenue visibility. As you pointed out, there is an assurance that the revenues will continue over the next 10 years. But the street is happy with that, and the stock is gaining in trade.
Okay, Rima, thanks very much. It was up a lot more. It's come off the highs. It's been a big underperformer as compared to the rest of the IT pack. Okay, autos are in focus. August sales, as always, come through in the beginning of the month. Sonia is standing by with an update on which segment did well, what did not. Sonia, morning.
Hi, good morning. Well, the big trend really this month is that commercial vehicle sales have done exceptionally well. Tipper demand has gone up. That's because construction activity has picked up, and you're seeing this across the board. Top of the ladder is Ashok Leyland, where they've seen almost a 27% growth this time around across the board, whether it's medium and heavy commercial or even light commercial vehicle. The trend is very good. MHCV sales up 24%, LCV sales up 38%. Tata Motors and Eicher Motors, M&M are all following suit. So for Tata Motors, CV sales are up 26%. For M&M, commercial vehicle sales have gone up by 25%, and Eicher commercial vehicle sales are up by 32%. But stripped of that, the numbers are quite weak for the other pockets. So whether it's passenger vehicles or even two-wheeler makers, a lot of them have reported disappointment in numbers this time. Maruti, for example, saw a fall of 3.4%. They've attributed it to the slowdown in Kerala, but that's for domestic. Even the export numbers for Maruti have been quite disappointing. Hero MotoCorp saw just a 1% sales growth. They have attributed it to the delayed festive season. You've seen Escorts that reported the lowest tractor sales since December of 2017. We spoke to the management. They said that because the festive season was delayed, the growth rates are not looking good. But going forward, Escorts is expecting a stellar Q3. They're expecting 10,000 units per month as the run rate in terms of sales. In the two-wheeler pack, the pick of the pack really is Bajaj Auto. Very, very strong numbers coming in. Record high numbers for the month of August. And it's both domestic and exports that have picked up quite well. Domestic sales up 27%, export sales up 35%. And that led to an overall tick of 4.37 lakh units. Rajiv Bajaj earlier had indicated to us that they'll do 4.5 lakh units as well in the month of October. In fact, on that note, let's listen to what the management of Bajaj Auto had to say earlier in the day.
I would say it's really the domestic motorcycles, which is, in this financial year, delivered a really good turnaround and, and tremendous growth rates. Bearing in mind that the season this year is 1 month later. However, we are gearing up for, equaling or if not bettering our last year's September performance in domestic motorcycles.
Okay, well, staying with the auto space, we do have some visuals which will come in soon enough of Anand Mahindra, in fact, speaking at the launch of their new multi-purpose vehicle, Marazzo. So it is currently, they don't really have any offering within that particular space. But let's cut across to him and listen in to what he's saying.
Right here, to take my first look at the prototype of the XUV. And I had a young intern with me who had flown with me from Mumbai. He must have been about 25 years old. And we walked in to the shop here where Kripa and her team had put the prototype. And this kid came in and he just stopped in his tracks and he said, wow. My jaw dropped too, because that vehicle took a leap of faith in design. It was bold, it went where no one had gone before in design, and it elicited that wow. And ever since then, we've never really been comfortable until we can get somebody to walk in, take a look at a vehicle and say, wow. We've not always succeeded, but that's what we always try to do. But the XUV took us not just from sheer ambition and leapfrogging in technology, it took us into the realm of high design, of recognizing that people loved things of beauty.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody will be waiting by to see exactly what the Marazzo looks like, the multi-utility vehicle, and we'll get you a couple of snippets of it soon enough as well. But as of now, let's get talking about the technicals of the market. We have Ashwini Gujral joining in for that. Ashwini, over to you then. What are you recommending stock-wise as well as index today?
See, first of all, on the index, index can be bullish or bearish. I think right now it looks vulnerable. And the reason is that you have these 50, 60 point premiums on Nifty, 170 points on Bank Nifty. Anytime you stop getting follow through, it will collapse like a person falls down the stairs. So I think given macro situation, given global context, etc., this is your GDP rally since morning, and the second half could be fairly bloody. So my recommendation is go short on Bank Nifty and Nifty. It's the safest trade. Just put a high of the day type stop, and I think we'll catch up with global markets. Having said that, Kotak is a sell with a stop of 1280, target of 1240. Axis is a sell with a stop of 648, target of 630, and Motilal is a buy with a stop of 865, target of 890.
Ashwini, Friday evening when we spoke, you would put out some PSU banks as stocks that you could buy, one should buy. I mean, so all of that with today's price action so far, that is nullified, right?
See, the issue is that you have such large premiums right now in the market that basically you are buying merchandise which is way too expensive, and if the premiums just come off, you'll start losing money anyway. And those PSU banks since Friday are higher. So the issue here is that at higher levels you only have now IT and pharma. Banks are kind of dropping off, and if these macros continue to worsen, then banks are really vulnerable, and they could easily get down towards 28,000 from where we have come in. So right now I won't like to buy afresh. Whatever you have, you can continue to carry. Overall, PSU banks will outperform private banks. Unfortunately, private banks have more weightage on the index. So, some things will keep going up. So you can say PSU banks, maybe IT pharma will continue higher. But a lot of the market, because of macro situation, is now vulnerable. Plus, this market is way too long. So it is fairly vulnerable to a strong correction.